All right, to our big story this hour, the man accused of being the Golden State Killer. He'll be back in a courtroom today in California, just a little over an hour from now. Family members of several of the victims will be in that courtroom as well. The last time we saw him, you might recall this, 72-year-old Joseph D'Angelo stood shackled alone in a cage, didn't utter a word to anyone but his lawyer. Prosecutors say D'Angelo terrorized California for decades, raping at least 50 women, murdering at least a dozen people in cases that date back to the 1970s. At first, investigators thought they were chasing multiple suspects, the East Area Rapist, the original Night Stalker, but the method of these attacks was so exact, so meticulous, that led them to realize they were searching for a single man. The HLN series Unmasking a Killer chronicled the hunt.
The first word we got of what became known as the original Night Stalker was the murders of Dr. Manning and Dr. Offerman. I made a list of similarities and dissimilarities. There are 14 similarities. How we think the guy got in, that was one thing. How they'd been tied up. I walked away thinking, this is the East Area Rapist.
So there were no fingerprints. There were no hair and fiber. You can only connect them through MO. No other way. This killer has evolved. He's been described as being a sexual sadist up in Sacramento. He moves into Goleta, where now he's killing his victims. Into Ventura, he's killing. Then he goes to Orange County, and he changes again.
Let's talk about this with Bob Bianchi. He is the former head prosecutor for Morris County in New Jersey. A delight to see your face. We often get to talk on the phone because you're such a busy guy and so in demand, Bob. You know, it's going to be really powerful to see survivors, families, people in the courtroom today. How much of an effect does that have on the jury and the case and the judge, et cetera?
It has an amazingly, tremendously powerful effect. Michaela, when I was a baby prosecutor just starting out trying homicide cases, there were so many times that there was nobody from the family or the community even in the room on behalf of the victim. But when I've tried cases where the victim's family is there or friends and they're supporting it, you can literally see the jury turning at certain points and watching how they're responding. As you can imagine, in a brutal homicide or rape case, what you're about to hear with this guy and the overall creepiness of this guy. I've done homicide my whole career. He's a special kind of guy. You can be assured the jury is going to be very, very careful in watching them, and it's going to be very impactful in their decision and the judge's sentencing.
We've heard some rumblings, discussion between state's attorneys about maybe possibly moving the case. We know one couple was killed in Sacramento, but beyond that, the cases are in other areas. Do you think a change of venue is likely?
It's hard to say. I mean, I would try to use whatever state rules they have there to try to consolidate. At least we can do that in Jersey and in New York. And I'm sure you would be able to do the same in California so that all of them are situated in one location for convenience sake. But, you know, at a certain point in time, you know, they're going to sit down with all the state's attorneys. They're going to make a decision of what they think is tactically best in order to exact as much pain as is possible for this gentleman.
Here's a case that has dominated the headlines since the arrest of this suspect. And we know that it captured the attention of California for a long time. You've worked in high-profile cases. How much of that do they have to factor in on how they manage this case, on how the lawyers and the judge handle this trial?
With a high-profile case, the number one thing that the prosecutor has to do is keep your eye on the ball. We can all go back to the OJ and see that as one of our first demonstrable public cases where prosecutors were playing more to the court of public opinion than they were the case itself. So from a prosecutor standpoint, when I've had these cases, I would instruct my staff, my detectives, and my witnesses, you just focus on facts and what the law are, and you do an honest and honorable job. As far as the public opinion is concerned, certainly there's not going to be any sympathy for this individual whatsoever, so the prosecutor doesn't have to worry about that. Now, as a defense attorney, you have to obviously make your motions that he's not able to get a fair trial based upon all the pretrial publicity. I expect that to fail.
Bob Bianchi, always a delight to speak with you. Thanks for your expertise again.
You got it, Michaela. Thank you.
So that hearing for Joseph D'Angelo is slated to begin just after 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 out west here. We're going to track the developments for you and bring you any updates.